She just be gone. I mean, just in her own. I love it. I love it. It's so cute. And it's wonderful when we can get so much joy from everything in life, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's just wonderful. And so I'm just thrilled and happy to be here. I'm thrilled that the sun is shining. I'm thrilled that you guys are here looking so wonderful.
Yes.
So thank you.
Here too.
It's funny. I wanted to. Y'all know I've been doing this thing about laughter, and I want y'all to laugh with me for a minute. But I thought today that my girlfriend sent me this little thing yesterday, and she was, she's always kind of talking about herself and the kind of stuff that she has going on in her life. And so she sent me this little thing, and she said, on it said, normal people run into somebody and say, hey, you're cute, we should go out sometime. She says, but her, she says she runs into somebody and she says, do you like bread? Okay. I thought that was the funniest thing. You have to know her too, She's like, do you like bread? And sometimes we're unable to see or to ask for what we want, and so a lot of times we get caught up focusing on the wrong things. Do you like bread?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes you had way too much.
Yes, too much.
Yeah, and then why are you asking about bread when that's not really what you want? You're not even interested in the bread part, but and we can break bread together. So today, it's interesting because there's been so much stuff that's been going on in my mind, and I ran across a quote that I thought was particularly interesting to me. Actually, a few of them. But the first one that I wanted to deal with, it was just one of those things that struck me because I had a chance to visit with Aurelia this past week, Aurelia and James. And so sometimes I think that we miss little points. I wonder if that popping sound is coming from where. I'm not sure. So the quote is from Augustine, and it says, God is not what you imagine or think you understand. If you understand, then you have failed.
Repeat
if
that,
you
please.
understand, then you have failed. So what's interesting is that I'm always of this mindset that so many of us try to make God into something, into something understandable, into what we believe God to be. We're so busy. We've got in our mind how God works and what God does and how, maybe how big he is or all of this stuff. And to some extent, I think that we lose the magical mysteriousness of what the Spirit is all about when we think we know what it is. I say this because, sometimes I think about all of this stuff we get caught up in, this idea that, God, there's this cause and effect that goes on. Sure, there's cause and effect. We know that. We know it's true. We know that we can set things in motion, and then it's almost like this boomerang effect that what we set in motion is going to come back to us. But how many times do you get into a situation and you wonder, why? Why, God? Why this? Why me? Why did I lose my job? Why did my wife leave me? Why did my husband cheat on me? We ask ourselves why about so many things. Why is this sickness here? Why did why? We're always asking these questions as if there's a set answer to it. Well, we could say, it's because of the way you think, you drew it onto you. But, very diligent. I've been minding my garden like, like nobody's business. I done put down everything. I bought new dirt. I turned it up. I did everything right. And still I get stuff. You said mess, huh? I still get stuff, And so, we want to make it sound like it's an easy, like correlation, but sometimes we have to recognize that God's ways aren't our ways. We heard our older folks say that all the time, that we have to learn how to trust. But when we seek to understand or think that we know, that's the moment that it kind of escapes us. One of my girlfriends, her signature line on her email is if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
Oh, yeah.
And it's because we always think, we got the answer. We prayed up. We're on the church roster, or we paid our tithes, or we've done this and we've done that, and life still happens. And so you sit there and you think, oh man, God done pulled a fast one on me. But the funny thing is that the moment we think we know something, it sort of does a switcheroo on us and sort of says, And until you get to the place where you have faith regardless, and love regardless, and have gratitude regardless, you ain't got it. So when I saw that quote, it just kind of spoke to me, this whole perception that, that I know, or that you know, or that any of us knows, that, God is so much bigger than our awareness of it. God is so much bigger than anything that we can perceive. And yet it's so personal to us. As personal to us as our next breath. As personal to us as knowing that it lives, moves, and has its being through us. It's just that personal. But so when we ask ourselves these questions about why, why this, why that, it sort of takes it out of this realm of just because we're on a course, and because we're supposed to learn, and because we're supposed to grow through the situation. It's funny because as I started thinking about this whole lesson today, so many thoughts came up for me. I started thinking about how when we get into these situations, we go in and for me, I sit there and I think, you know what, I know how it's supposed to go. I already, I got it all down. It's almost as if I can order or fix a thing. So you know how you got your bills, and every month you pay this and you pay that, and it comes out on the 7th, and then it comes out another one on the 12th, and you got it all fixed, and then somebody throws a buoy in there. I mean, you know what I mean?
Another bill.
Or take it from a camera that you didn't even see that was there, right? They throw a buoy in there. And with our perception that we can fix things, and the idea that we can fix it means that we can control it, we can predict what happens. But guess what? Life is unpredictable.
Right.
It's totally unpredictable.
Yeah.
And so when you think you've got everything all situated out and under control, you figure out that you don't have anything under control. So when I started thinking about this perception of God, I started thinking like, man, yes, I know. Yes, I know. It says to me in the Bible that God wants me to find joy in whatever I'm going through. Just, count it amongst joy. No matter what we do, count it joy. And so if I'm in that situation and I get all of a sudden the bill that comes out of nowhere, or I get something that comes from nowhere, how do I get to a point where I'm not asking the question why, but saying thank you in every instance, right? When hardship comes up, How do we get to the point where we're no longer sitting there thinking, why me? And saying, why not me? I recognize, when we were doing the meditation, it's like, it's wonderful when you recognize that God is not out there, but God is here. God is present in you. And so when you recognize God being present in you, it helps you stand up that much taller in the world. You're not out there grappling for something, looking for it somewhere else, but rather it coming from a deep place within, a knowing, that kind of sense of where you're stepping into yourself. You see on TV how they have these little images of people and their souls leave their body or something when they die. That indwelling spirit that they're trying to show you is really the God in you, that Christ within you. But to make it seem like it is just here and the same size as me is kind of like a misnomer, because I recognize that it's so much bigger than me. And sometimes in my meditations, I even, do the thing, they got meditations where you leave your body. I mean, my mind doesn't have to be right here. And what I am is not just at the confines of my body. I probably have told you guys this before, but sometimes I think it bears repeating. Back when I was taking philosophy class, we used to do this thing about the diagram of the brain and the synaptic nerves and how they show us how they control how we move our body parts and all of this stuff, and how all of this stuff communicates throughout our body. The body is a fascinating thing, right?
Yes.
But your body is not you. I mean, when you get ready to leave here, this thing that we have used all these years and, that has worked for us involuntarily. We breathe and we don't even have to think about we're breathing. Right. You don't have to think, inhale, exhale. We just that happens, right? It happens without you consciously willing it to happen. These things, all the processes, the heart beating, the blood flowing, it happens without all the processes. And it talks about our brain being the control center of all of that. But then when it goes through and they try to define the frontal lobe, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere and what it controls and all of those nerves, when they go through and they find all of that stuff and they control all of that stuff, no place in there can they find a mind. A mind that thinks. That part of you is not in there. That part of you is all around you. It is something so much bigger and so much greater. And the moment we think we know, that's the moment it's like, what? Yeah. So I was quite intrigued by that idea that the moment you think you know, you understand. Now, in some of the Asian cultures, there's this wonderful thing you still see of this gesture. It's like a court gesture. How do you say it? It's like a clown that kind of points to something bigger, but the moment you think you've got it, it's like, and it runs off and it says, no, you don't. We've seen those things before. And so it's this thing that says to you that what you are and the spirit that you are is so much bigger, and it eludes you the moment you think you understand or you got it. And it's on purpose. So this thing called God is indwelling in you, but it's so much bigger and it's so much more than what you can imagine. So I say all of this because I think that it's important on a regular basis that we tap into and check out our own selves to make sure that we don't think or take God for granted. Does that make sense? Take God for granted in the sense that we think we have it all. I was telling a friend of mine that, at this church I used to go to, I might have been talking to you, Aurelia. This church I used to go to, this minister, God bless him, he used to talk about, God and our experiences as if the only thing that God was for was granting us our blessings or our wishes. And so no matter what you wanted, all you had to do was treat God kind of like an ATM machine. If you go up and you press in the right code, then you get out exactly what you want. And they kind of made it sound like, yeah, it's a science to it, but it took out the mystery part of it. It took out the times when it said insufficient funds, then how do you react? Is it just something about you that says, okay, that, you know, that the insufficient funds is there, what, because God didn't deem me worthy? What is it? You're looking at the screen and you're thinking, wait a minute, here, I came to get something, and I thought I did what was right, and now it's telling me insufficient funds. Why is that? Well, James, we know that usually when you can't get anything out, it's because you didn't put anything in, right? I mean, that's normally the way it works, right? And so a lot of times we don't recognize the part that we play or don't play in this whole situation. They say that the cost of giving is receiving in the Course in Miracles because there is a circular process to it all. It's a closed system. And so remember, I was talking a couple of weeks ago about when you want to get something, you got to give something. You got to put something in there or participate in the system. If all you're doing is going someplace and expecting to receive without first giving, then nothing happens. And so it becomes this thing of, now what am I giving? Now I remember a time when I was like that person in that song, if you have no penny, a half penny will do. And if you have no half penny, then God bless you. I can remember a time when I just had change, and was sitting up trying to figure out how to get what I needed next, Cause it's sometimes you talk about you don't have enough money at the end of your month or enough month at the end of your money. Either the case may be, sometimes you don't have anything. I mean, and that's real. It's real, right? And so it becomes this, they talk about the 4 T's, your time, your treasure, your talents,
and
your tithes, right?
Yes.
And if we're not giving of any of them, then we're not participating in the system.
Right.
It's not just about whether or not you pay your tithes. What time are you spending? What talents are you using? Because we all have talents. What are we given? We can participate in the system. I was listening to a radio show the other day. I don't know, maybe I was riding with Alan, maybe I was riding in my own car, I don't know. But they started talking about the water. And a lot of people, you hear a lot of stuff about people talking about some of the greatest things that confront us in this day and time, and in the 2016, this is 2016, the things that affect us the greatest in these days. And because we're here, we don't have perceptions about the poverty and the struggles that people have throughout the world. I mean, we just know about our stuff. And for the most part, we're busy just ordering our world. But there are still people on this planet Earth this day who have to walk a mile to get some water, a bucket of water.
Right.
I mean, and they worry about once they go and they get this bucket of water, whether or not the bucket of water is clean enough for them to drink out of. And not every place in the world do people have clean drinking water. And I'm sitting there, and as I'm brushing my teeth today, I'm running the water, and I suddenly turn it off. And I thought to myself, like, man, there are people who, what I take for granted, there are people who can't even figure out how to get it. And we talk about our ozone layer, and we talk about the cars, and we talk about all the stuff that's going on. But there are people who are drilling down on their land, trying to get down to the water table, and then depleting the water that's naturally underground. And they used to, you know that they used to have wells everywhere, right? You know that there's water way down up underneath the ground. And people are depleting those sources and trying to find new sources. And the interesting thing is that it's not that we don't have the ability to know these things are happening, but so many of us are so indifferent about the fact that it's happening that we can't even use our prayers. You know, talk about spending time. Most people won't even pray for stuff like that. I mean, Lord, help us that we become indifferent or isolated to the things that go on around this planet. And so it becomes this thing of how are we spending our attention too? So the moment we start recognizing that all of these people, whether they're here or whether they're someplace in some far country, in some city we've never heard about, it becomes our responsibility to pray for those people too. Because what we are withholding or what we don't bless for another, we can't have ourselves. We don't bless ourselves. So last week I talked about this idea of us praying for one another. Y'all, let's pray that people have what they need in order to survive. Let's not be indifferent about it. Let's not turn a blind eye to it. And they say that a butterfly that flaps its wings down in South America affects us here, right? All the things that we do affect this planet as a whole, and we need to be about the business of blessing this planet. I had to get that off my little chest because it's such, it's one of those things as you're standing in the shower and you're feeling this water beating upon you. Know that not everybody is blessed to have water. Know that everybody is not, there's droughts all over the place. There's things that are happening that, even if we're just sending a little bit of our energy, if we're sending our attention, if we're blessing them, then we're blessing ourselves, because those people are you. Just in different clothing, in a different place, but they are one with you. Yeah.
I was reading Goldsmith, Between Two Worlds, and he states that the culture that we're in, we know there's only one world, first of all. The culture that we're in, we're materialistic. That's the number one thing, rather than being spiritually conscious. And once you realize we live according to our six senses, you got to erase the six senses to come to that state where you are spiritually conscious, working towards that thing. So I said that we are still in the process. It's a process. You go day by day and you try to do the right thing and mind what Jesus did and love, and these things to me fall into place. Like God said, my kingdom is not of this world. I'm in this world and this kingdom's in me. So it means that we are traveling, once I realize this, that he's in me, this is my world. So he was saying the conflict that people have about being spiritually conscious and being materialistic.
Okay. It's interesting. One of the things I was reading about was this idea of what is materialistic, what is materialism. And when we talk about, remember how you guys taught us that a noun is a person, place, or thing, right? It's an identifiable entity. You can name it. It's localizable. And it talks about material as having edges and being clearly definable. But what's conscious is something that is, you can't quite put a location on it. You can't quite, contain it. It's so much more than what we can touch. talk about it, but it's not a it at all. It's consciousness. So in our consciousness, that we can put anywhere, right? I can sit down in a chair and do my meditation, and I can consciously connect with you where you are. It's almost as if last night I think it was, I had a dream about my mom. Now my mom has been gone since '92, and in my dream we were having a conversation, and she was talking to me just as clearly. But it's always like this thing of I can hear you, Mom, but I can't quite get to you. I can hear what you're saying, and I'm trying to reach her, but I can't. I can't come close. And then you wake up and you realize it was all just a dream. And so when I'm dreaming, what world am I in? What state am I in? And does it even matter? As long as I heard what it is that I needed to hear, as long as the love that's contained in it is real, that's what I hold to. That's what all I'm responsible for. So if my consciousness, if I share my love through where I send my energy, let me not just think that it's about the here and now and what I can see and touch and feel and taste beyond the senses that you talk about. But let me know that my love transcends all these boundaries. It can go someplace else. And when I get in that spirit, when I get in that situation, I'm giving to the process. It's as if I'm paying into something. What are we doing with our energy, though, when all we're worried about is the next outfit or the next meal that we have? Let us send our energy. Let us spend our time thinking about something else. And if you're moved to action, that's even great too. But not all of us are called to be Mother Teresa. Not all of us are going to get down and do those things. But we can do something. We can change around how we are extending ourselves and extending our heart and extending our love. Some of the greatest experiences that I've seen is people who are healers and distant healers. I mean, they don't even have to leave out of, where you are, you have the ability to send prayers, to do energy work, to do whatever is called for you. When all we're worried about is ourselves, we're not giving anything. We're not putting anything in. So yeah, it's going to tell you insufficient funds. You got to do something. You got to put something in there. So as I started thinking about all those folks over there, and you might want to ask the questions, why this and why that? Why are there people in this world that still starve when half of us are throwing away stuff? When half of us got food that I got a freezer. My freezer is stuffed with stuff. I go in there trying to, you open the door and stuff falls out at you. Cause you know how I am. If I'm not gonna eat it, it goes in the freezer. I bought a whole rotisserie chicken the other day. I ate a piece off of there, or Alan ate a piece off of there, and I cut the rest of the thing up and I stick it in the freezer. Knowing, Joyce, that it's going in the Never Never Land. And so, but it goes in the freezer. I buy bread. I'm not eating bread. I'm watching my calorie intake. It goes in the freezer. Whatever it is, it goes in the freezer. Like I'm storing up for another day. And yet I know there are people that don't have any food. Right? So it becomes this thing of what it is, what can I contribute? What can I do? Let me not just, let's not just be about this stuff where we're storing up just for ourselves, but how do we play it forward into the system? So this idea of being able to control stuff, we can't do that. But what we can do is we can control how we think, what we think, and we can control this perception that is just about us. It moved beyond the senses into what is possible out there for us. So I wanted to make sure that I pointed out that when we get stuck in trying to understand the whys of things and how this is happening and what for, that's not really what faith is all about. Faith is about knowing that whatever situation you're in and wherever you are, that God is already there. God is in the situation.
When they said, first seek the kingdom of God and those other things will be added.
Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Yes. And so there's a line in the course that says something that's wonderful to me, and I love this one, and I quote it often, that many conspire with God that don't know God. And it's because I could refer to that Buddhist thing where they say if you meet God on the road, kill him. Because if you think God is outside of yourself, or you think he's coming along the path and not where you are, then you need to do something about that. But it becomes this thing of recognizing that so many people are out here doing good and doing good works, and not because they believe that God is out there telling them that they need to do it, or something but because they're paying into a system. So I always like to equate this to like your car or any other system. A system is a closed system, right? It's a closed system, and as you add to it, it does that mechanical thing that you pay in and it gives you out. No matter what it is that you're thinking, no matter the reasons behind it, as you put in, it gives you this back out. My blood circulates, and it's not because I'm willing it to circulate, not because I'm, anything, it's because it's part of the system, and that's what it does. I love the fact that God works regardless of of where my mind is on any given day. Because on certain days, I'm liable to, I'm liable to forget. I was walking down the street the other day eating a tuna fish sandwich. No, I'm kidding, not about the tuna fish sandwich, but I was walking down the street the other day. You know how I like to walk. And this guy blows the horn at me, but he's sitting right there at the light. I'm crossing, and somebody blows the horn, and you know how loud it is, and it makes you jump out of your skin. Well, I said some things to that guy that I really shouldn't have, because it scared me. It was my first instinct. I was upset. Fear is not of God, right? They tell you fear is not of God. I made fear, but God won't take fear from me, because if I believe in fear, then that's on me. I can give up my fear. I can relinquish it. It's like this idea of fear and faith. You've got to have the faith part. The fear is not real. The fear is the idea that you're just a body, that you're limited. Faith is that you're so much more. So it becomes this thing of recognizing at every moment that yes, God is saying yes to you. That God is giving you back what you give out. That what you give and what you do unto your brother, you are also doing unto God. You're doing unto yourself. All of this stuff is in the system, is part of the flow. Let me read my last quote before I let you guys go. Life can only be understood backwards, but you must live forward. Kierkegaard. So let's seek not to understand all this stuff. Let's just have faith that all of it is working out and it's working to our good. Understand that as you give, you shall receive, and that God is constantly in the business of saying yes and blessing us, but to the extent that we are willing and able to allow that blessing to flow through us to others, because we participate in the system. Moment I think I understand.
Stuff happens.
And you know, it's also wonderful to be in that mindset because I think it makes me more thankful about the process, that I can see the process. You know, a lot of times we want to understand or try to make sense of stuff that is not meant for us to understand. It's just meant for us to be in an accepting nature and say, okay, this is what I got to deal with today. Okay, and this too shall pass. This too shall grow me. This too will not take me down. This I will move beyond, because life, that's what life is. I mean, I'm liable to, you know, get any number of things to happen to me. And Lord knows I love just having the good. Yes, that would be great if it was all good, but the fact of the matter is, it's not always. So if we can just be of the mindset that, you know, I'm accepting, I'm loving, I know that all is well, all is good, yeah, then we've been somewhere. I was just about to pray us out. So yeah, it's a wonderful thing. All right, so join me. Mother, Father God, as we recognize you as all there is, in all, through all, as all. God, we know that everywhere, you are everywhere, in everything. So we bless this planet, God. We bless the people who we don't even know, God. We know that you are where they are. We bless them, God, that they have food to eat, water to drink, clean water. God, we bless them that they move and live in your being, knowing that they are loved. God, lift from this world all the stress and all the strife, all the suffering, all the wrong action. I thank you, God, that you place in our heart compassion, that we not turn a blind eye to what goes on in the world. I thank you, God, that we in our consciousness know that as we give to the world, we shall receive. And not because we're receiving, God, but because we recognize that we are part of something that is so much bigger than what we are, what we know ourselves to be. So God, I thank you for a healing of our planet. I thank you for a healing of our mind. I thank you for a healing of our pastor, George, in his absence. God, I thank you that we are healed. I thank you that we are no longer indifferent to what we see around us. I thank you, God, that each person here is blessed beyond their wildest imagination. And I thank you that it's done right now.